Hi everyone, I'm Jansen Brown, and this is Josh Kirkby's funeral, and I hope you're with a loved one or someone who can hold you during this sad time.
Welcome to the Dubbo City Crematorium. Could I ask anyone with a mobile phone to turn it to silent? So silent for the next 30 minutes would be really appreciated. So today we're gathering to give gratitude and to celebrate the life of a very special man, Joshua Reginald Keith Kirkby, affectionately known to some as Josh. I am Sue Curley, a civil celebrant. On behalf of Joshua's family, I'd like to thank you all for being a part of this celebration ceremony today. The memory of family and friends who stood by them at this time will be a great consolation later. The family do invite you to join them for refreshments following this ceremony, and that will be at the Narromine United Services Memorial Club. Let's begin with a prayer. Please bow our heads. Lord, we gather today as family and friends to give thanks for the life Joshua lived. We cherish his life full of vibrancy and being a good friend to many. We come as people who believe that those who die in the truth of Christ will share eternal life with him. In that faith, we gather here today through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. I would now like to invite Rebecca to come forward and read for us. We had a wonderful cousin.
Been great, Julie. Julie. I just said I'm too short, I think. Okay. We had a wonderful cousin, one who never grew old. His hug was always genuine, and his heart was solid gold. His laugh could bring the house down, so cheeky it was, and his eyes, they're the most cheeky you'll ever see. Josh, you've been such a wonderful cousin, and that's the way it will always be. It broke our hearts to lose you, but you haven't gone alone. For a part of us went with you to the place your soul now calls home. A million times we'll miss you, and a million more will have cried. And if love, my darling, didn't save you, you'd never have died. But the tears could build a stairway, and memories could make a lane. We'd walk and walk till we found you. To bring you home again. Rest in peace.
Thank you very much, Rebecca, for those wonderful words that really just remind us that a part of us went with you and Joshua went home. Shortly, Joshua's mother, so Joy Kirkby, will be presenting a eulogy on behalf of the family, and other family members will be presenting tributes as well. The family also welcomes your contribution. So if you would like to say some words of appreciation of Joshua's life, I'll give you that opportunity shortly. So Joshua did not want a fuss made of his passing, and that's the sort of man he was. But just for today, we pause the rush and hurry of life, and we stop for a moment and we reflect. And when we think about Joshua's life, there is so much to appreciate. We'll learn a little of those details now. So I'd now like to ask Joy Kirkby to come forward and present the eulogy.
Who has welcomed you all today on behalf of us. But I would also like to welcome people who are not here and who would love to have been here, but because of COVID couldn't come. One, and also our family in Birmingham and friends in Japan who were very close to Joshua. So Joshua Reginald Keith Kirkby. It's rather a large name, but he was large when he arrived. He was 9. And he arrived in a hurry, and he never stopped. How can I do this? Thank you. He was a very happy chappie, and he loved keeping us on our toes. From the day he was born to the day he died. He adored all of his siblings, and he discovered early that he had a ready-made audience for his over-the-top personality. Joshua loved everyone around him, but most of all, he loved himself. We had installed some that self-reflecting, heat-reflecting stuff, on the back, put it on the back window of the dining area in town. And of course, at night time, that used to become a mirror. Well, he just loved looking at himself, which brought the kids into lots of laughter and fun. Eventually, he was banned from sitting in that direction. He had to sit facing away from it. Now, one night, most of the people who know us, Joshua was a real night owl. My first three children were a breeze in comparison. I mean, he bathed them, he fed them, he put them to bed, and that was it. Not Joshua. He rewrote all the rules. So one night, he'd been up and down, and as I fell asleep, I heard the familiar thump and I thought, oh. Well, several hours later, I woke up to find the lights in the kitchen on. I thought, what's going on here? On investigation, I found the very bleary-eyed Joshua leaning against the dining room table with a lid off a bottle of Bacardi and a flag of sherry alongside. He had been at large for some time, and he'd had a lovely time. It was in the era of teardrop, what are they called? Candles. Anyway, he had a lovely time smashing them. Thank God he didn't know about matches, because otherwise we might be here today. But anyway, he had a lovely time with all the herbs and spices. He mixed them up in every container he could find, spreading them all around, so that when water was added to the kettle and turned into a volcano. As a family, we enjoyed many other families' company, and a lot of family, the Schultzes lived not far from us, around the corner, in fact. And often a Sunday night, we used to go and have fast food from the Last Greek Cafe in Narromine. We'd often have two cars there because Robert had probably been to the hospital on the way. So when we got home that night, I said to Robert, have you got Joshua? He said, no, we'd left him behind. We were still in a Moses basket. So that became Joshua's one of his favourite stories about his terrible childhood, and he had many of them, and I wish to goodness that he had written them down. At age 6, Joshua developed childhood diabetes. He enjoyed a long honeymoon for 4 years, and then the shit hit the fan. His diabetes became so difficult to control. And after many visits to doctors and specialists and hospitals, it was suggested that we send him to boarding school as the routine life might help. Well, it did and it didn't. Following a fairly nasty episode at Joey's, when it took them quite a lot to resuscitate him, there was time for change, and so the school and the hospital got their heads together and worked out a plan. So Joshua then became more in charge of his diabetes and was able to consult with the doctors directly himself. His control did improve. He was also lucky later in life to have received a transplant. At 8, Joshua went to a camp for diabetic children and brought home a friend with him to the farm, because it's great fun. They could get up to all sorts of mischief out there. So Joshua was taking his friend around the farm one day in the ute. Of course, we had because everybody knows Joshua was mad about music, he had a cassette radio, one of those 2-in-1 things in the car. Anyway, he was driving along and decided he would take his hands off the steering wheel and change the cassette, which meant that the ute went straight into the fence, damaging both sides of the ute as well as the bonnet. Consequently, he suffered a 2-year ban from driving. This also caused no further children, including grandchildren, to be allowed to learn to drive until they could see over the bond. Anyway, and also Robert had a fairly tough time concocting a story about the damage that had been done to the ute, the NRMA. On another occasion, Joshua and Luke were also very busy around the farm. And this time, Luke was driving and Joshua distracted him, so we ended up on a pile of timber. It was a summer day and I was out at the front, and the crash sounded shocking. And of course, the next thing I hear, Joshua going, "Ah!" I thought, oh, goodness me. So on investigation, I discovered this ute parked on top of the pile of wood, and I just said, just make sure you've got it off there, boys, before Dad gets home. So while at Joey's, Brother Jeffrey Joey, who was their pastor at the time, said to him at one stage, "Now Joshua, you're going to stay here. No thought about going home. You'll stay here till you can get a job." They also had an excellent music department. He learned to play the drums and was a drummer at most of the masses for a long time. Later in his life, he continued his love of music and was a passionate DJ, having played many times at Mardi Gras celebrations and in nightclubs all around the world. When he finished school, he said to me, "Mum, none of this tertiary education bullshit for me. I'm going to get a job." Okay, Joshua. So within 2 weeks, he had a job with Just Flights, leaving stamps really, but he was in the industry which he wanted. After a year or so, I remember this very distinctly. One Sunday afternoon, I was over in my workshop and the phone rang Joshua. "Mum, have a guess what?" which was his favourite phrase. "What, Joshua?" "I'm going to go to Japan." "Really? How are you going to do that?" "Well, you're going to give me the money for a ticket instead of a car." I never thought about a car. Anyway, so off he went, and soon after he arrived, he met two wonderful women who were to become his family in Japan, Fukiko Osawa and Noven-chan, her sister. He became like a son to them. He was enormously spoiled by them, I might add. But anyway, they were all night owls, and there was nothing for them to trot off late at night for a late night meal or off to hot tubs or whatever. He was popular in the neighbourhood, made great friends with a man called Masaki Tsukara and his now wife, Keisuke. They had a band and Joshua played in it. He also sang at their wedding. I don't know whether it was in English or Japanese, but anyway. I think while Joshua was in Japan, he spent a lot of time sorting himself out and kind of looking at his inner self. And he eventually came out as a gay man. It was a huge step for him. Quite frankly, we were not surprised. But it must have been very hard for him to tell us that nothing changed. Nothing changed. He was always our beautiful son. Not long after he returned to Australia, he started a relationship with Tree Lee. Now, that partnership lasted for 20 years, during which time they travelled the world, dining in some of the most amazing restaurants and sunning themselves on the beaches of Spain, thinking, God alone knows what. Sometime during their time together, together with Tree's brother, Lewis, they purchased a home in Perth Street, Surrey Hills. The boys have remained lifelong friends and housemates. We feel incredibly sorry and sad for Lewis and for Tree and their family. Joshua had a strong love for cats. As he leaves behind his beloved Scooter, Tree and Tree's old cat Nero, he will be at peace knowing that they will continue to be loved by Tree and Lewis. Joshua worked at Spotless for 20 years. They were understanding of Joshua's health. However, unfortunately, when COVID, the pandemic struck, Joshua was retrenched with Sorry. Water anyway. Sorry. Okay, so thank you, Michelle. Thank God I got some helpers. This had a devastating effect on him, being immunosuppressed. He also had to take extra care. When the restrictions eased, he began job hunting. So the day he passed away, he had a very promising interview with a jobs that could have been way up his alley. Now, I don't know if you've got any gay friends, but I bet you haven't got very many gay friends that have been to a labour ward. He had a friend called Anna, and Anna's husband didn't want any of this labour ward business. And Anna asked Joshua if he would be her labour ward buddy. So he went off to the last lot of antenatal classes with Anna. In the day, phone rang. Yes, I'm a labour, and off we went. Josh went home, packed the air skid with all the little bits and pieces. I think it was going to be a picnic, and they were going to be there for quite a while. However, Anna got into strife, I think, and ended up having a seizure. So when they rolled Anna into the theatre, the anaesthetist said, "Oh, hey, Joshua, what are you doing here?" Wherever he went, he spread. Joshua's sudden death has devastated his family and large circle of friends. Wherever he was, there was always happiness and laughter. He had a very quirky sense of humour. He had an overdeveloped sense of the ridiculous. And he actually would have been could have been referred to as the Minister for Fun. He was amazed when he turned 40 that he was still alive. So he celebrated his recent 50th birthday with an over-the-top party. The first one was Rebecca, who just spoke, then her husband on Friday night. And then Saturday, he had a party for all the women in his life, including the other male and I. And then lastly, he spent the week a Sunday at Centennial Park partying with the rest of his buddies. We were so lucky to have our Joshua for 50 years, as many a family have lost a loved one much younger than that. We were fortunate enough to have him home at the end of May. He spent precious time with his family, catching up with old friends. It's been a whirlwind last 2 weeks since our Joshua left us. That being said, I would like to thank all my family, particularly Michelle and her daughters and three other female friends who have been absolutely amazing in getting this together. Also Tree and Lee, who have also helped. So it is with great sadness that we farewell our precious son, brother, nephew, uncle, cousin, dear friend. We were lucky we shared him for 50 years. On Wednesday, the 16th of June, he died in his sleep, in bed, with his cat. Rest in peace, Joshua. You naughty boy.
Thank you very much for drawing those wonderful words that really illustrate not only how Joshua lived life, but just how he connected with others and found a minister of fun. That's brilliant. Thank you. Okay, Claudia and Anastasia are now going to present tributes.
Just as my nan said, Josh came into the world in a hurry and he left in one too. He was always in a hurry, walking and speaking 100 miles an hour. You'd be lucky to get a word in when Josh was around. He would only take a breath when he was laughing, and even then you still wouldn't be able to get a breath in because you would probably be laughing also. It feels weird being here today and being able to speak and listen to all of our fond memories of Josh without being interrupted by Josh. I'm very grateful to have spent time with Josh when he was home visiting Nan and Pop. He spoke a lot and gave me a lot of advice about my upcoming birth. He had been a birth partner for his good friend Anna, and he shared some wonderful tips for Tom. He always lit up like a shining disco ball whenever he spoke of that memory. I wish I could still have him on speed dial to help support Tom. Claudia is not wrong when she said it was often hard to get a word in, but that's what made Josh, Josh. And his words of wisdom always made any situation a little bit better. As a creative, we're always told to find ourselves a person we can share our ideas with, to critique and workshop into something special. For me, that was Josh. It did not matter when I called or texted him with a random thought for a brief I was working on, Josh was always able to give me a different perspective, ideate, and often throw a couple of inappropriate ones in there to lighten the mood. Some would say, of course it's easy to chat to your uncle about your ideas, but I hand on heart think it was because, despite being cut short, he had a worldly view and perspective of at least 2 lifetimes, if not more. Josh has always been very good to me, ready to listen when needed, be a supportive rock, updater of shows to watch, sharer of his amazing mixes, and a temporary roommate, which I'll always cherish. His love for Will and Grace and chatting about the latest RuPaul's Drag Race. I wish you got to see the latest season of Down Under. It was an absolute hoot and you would have enjoyed it. Like my sister, we feel sad that our kids won't have the privilege to grow up with Josh in their lives, but we will certainly make sure his memory and quirkiness lives on. Josh was always a big believer in being in charge of our own happiness. I know we all stand here today feeling confused and angry as to why he's come and gone too soon. But I believe he reached his potential on Earth too quickly. I know he wouldn't want us to be sad today, which is very hard, but to be happy and think of all the wonderful times we were able to spend with him. I think it's fair to say that Josh will certainly be channeling a 2002 pilot fever entrance to the afterlife, because we all know he loved a good party and an even better entrance. I say this on behalf of his nieces and nephews. We were all very fond of our uncle, a nickname he gave himself, and always told us to be very grateful for him, because not everyone in this world gets the luxury of getting a big-hearted, flamboyant, fun-loving uncle.
For those online, my name's Michelle. I'm one of Joshua's sisters. I'm now going to read a letter that Catherine, Joshua's older sister, has written. Dear Joshua, I cannot believe that you're not here, as I can still see your face and hear your voice. You've been larger than life, you have been a larger than life character for all your 50 years, filling a room with laughter and joy wherever you went. You have enriched our lives in more ways than you'll ever know. The room today is filled with people, while others are having this celebration streamed to them like me, that have loved and who love you. I believe that there are 2 deaths, one that is physical and the other is when people don't remember, think or talk about you. I know that your second death will not be for a long, long time, as you will forever be in our hearts. I can't believe I won't have any more hour-long phone calls with you about family, pets, music, food, movies, and what's the next best thing to binge on Netflix. Who will tell me what to watch without you? Joshua, I'm glad that you were able to spend precious time with Michelle, me, Luke, Mum and Dad before you left us. You saw so many people when you were home who will carry happy memories of you now that you're gone. I'm so glad that you got to celebrate your 50th birthday with so many people after being locked away shielding for so long. Even though you did complain to me that there was a few women who tried to kill you after the ladies' lunch as they kept on partying with you after. You know who you are, and I know he loved it. Tree, I was going through Joshua's Facebook photos and I saw all the pictures again of your parties, picnics and travels. Joshua's life was richer for you being in it, and I'm so truly grateful. Remember the good times and the fun that you both had together. I know that you were the most important person in his life, even when you were no longer together, and he still loved and cared for you deeply, as well as you, Lewis. Joshua loved music, and Joshua loved you loved your music, and you said to me before that I was the one who started you on this passion when I brought the Grace Jones Slave to the Rhythm album. I'm not sure that's right, as I can remember us as 4-year-olds. Remember us as 4 kids singing and dancing along to our Arrival album in the old house in town. I think you were about 4 years at the time. Joshua, your journey has been a hard one with your health. We were so lucky to have you for as long as we did. You lived your life on your terms, and what a life you had. Your candle burned for a short time, but it burned brightly. The world is a little sadder and the sun shines a little duller since you are gone. My heart has a hole in it that feels like it'll never be filled. But you will go on, and memories of you will fill that hole, and my tears will be shed with a smile on my face, to quote Lee. Joshua, wherever you are, I know you are spinning your tunes to the stars with some excellent company. I love and I miss you, little brother. Love your loving sister. P.S. What did you think of the new Cruella film? I didn't actually know that there was one. So on to me. There's been so many happy memories and journeys in Joshua's life. He's taken each and every one of us here. Each and every one of us here have been touched by you, my brother, in some way. Josh had the privilege of living with me when he finished school and started working for Just Blokes. Prior to heading to Japan, he also organised my flights to the UK. Well, he had the last laugh. I left Sydney, I changed planes in New Zealand, I changed planes in LA, and some 32 hours later arrived in Sydney. Michelle, it was the cheapest flight I could get. I think back in 1991 it still cost $2,800. Some ridiculous amount of money. Joshua and I had a very close bond. 18 years ago, I got a call from the transplant coordinator, mind you, at 9:30 at night, from Westmead Hospital, and I was told I had an hour to find Joshua, otherwise the organs would be reallocated. After a few phone calls, I tracked him down and said, Josh, get your butt home, pack your bag, and get over to Westmead. It's time. He then rang me on his way to the hospital to tell me that he caught a limo to the hospital just in case he never had that experience. And it's not like you get the gift of life every day. I was at Westmead waiting for him to come out of theatre. His transplant took longer than the norm due to having a belly full of adhesions resulting from ruptured appendix when he was a child. I was Joshua's support person and advocate for the first 12 days until Mum and Dad got back from their overseas travel. Joshua was a special man, the life of the party, a stand-up comic. He had verbal diarrhea. All he wanted in life was for everyone to be happy. He advocated looking after your own mental health, and that's why we have requested, in lieu of flowers, donation to the Black Dog Institute, which is an organisation that conducts research into mental health. I know he had supported many of his friends through tough times. I'm just going to skip a little bit because we all know about his birthing experience, and it's been mentioned a couple of times. But I know that he was actually looking forward to becoming a great aunt to my two beautiful daughters. Great uncle, well, sometimes he wanted to be an aunt. To my two beautiful daughters' children in the future. Sorry. It's not goodbye, but your next journey begins. And I hope one day we can have those long chats and laughter in heaven together. We're all going to dearly miss you, and you'll forever be in our hearts, but you'll never be forgotten. Oh, gee, Joshua. Thank you. Yeah. Just get my water so I don't squirt it again.
Thank you so much for sharing those wonderful memories, anecdotes, that the fun and laughter that you've been able to share just brings it so much more alive. I would now like to invite anyone else who would like to say some words of appreciation. The family do welcome your sharing of memories here today. Alternatively, of course, very much the sharing of memories will be welcomed at the Narromine USC Club a little bit after the ceremony. I would now like to invite Matthew Kirkby to come forward and read for us I Thought of You with Love Today.
I thought of you with love today, author unknown. I thought of you with love today, but that is nothing new. I thought about you yesterday and the days before that too. I think of you in silence, I often speak your name. All I have are memories and your picture in a frame. Your memory is my keepsake, with which I'll never part. God has you in his keeping, and I have you in my heart. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Matthew. That's well done. The family have been able to share with me some lovely reflections in the past few days as well, but these have been much more eloquently described by the wonderful speakers, so I will skip those there. Except to say the family have asked me to acknowledge the very kindest people, closest friends, the supportive community who have opened their hearts and stood by them. Thank you. Your heartfelt compassion means so very much and will never be forgotten. Now, the family have put together a selection of photos which we will view on the screen over here. If you are outside the chapel, if you move to the rear windows, you will probably be able to view this presentation as well. So please enjoy this walk down memory lane.
Do you know where you're going to? Do you like the things that life is showing you? Where are you going to? Do you know? Do you know what you're hoping for when you look behind you? you know, once we were standing still in time, chasing the fantasies that filled our minds. You knew how I loved you, but my spirit was free. Laughing at the questions that you once asked of me. Do you know where you're going to? Do you like the things that life is showing? Where are you going to? Do you know? Now, looking back at all we've had, yet so many dreams just slip through our hands. Once we waited so long for a stage, how sad the answers to those questions can be. Do you know where you're going to? Do you like the things that life is showing you? Where are you going to? Do you know? Do you get what you're hoping for? When you look behind you, there's no open doors. What are you hoping for? Do you know?
And every one of those amazing photos, speaking 1,000 other words. We now come to what we call reflection time. So during this time, the family might come forward and place a flower or a gum leaf on Joshua's casket for a moment of personal farewell. The family do invite you to join them in doing this if you would like to. For all of us, this is a time to quietly reflect on the meaning of Joshua's life and for us individually. So I ask you to think of a special moment, a particular connection or time that you spent with Joshua, and to hold that memory in your heart and in your thoughts, and reflect on what that brings to your life today.
So this is who I am, and this is all I know. And I must just live for all I can give. The spark that makes the fire grow. And I will stand for victory if I can. Symbol of my faith in who I am. But you are my only. And I must follow on the road that lies ahead. Now only my heart control my head. But you are my only. We don't say goodbye. We don't say goodbye. And I know that I've got to be. Give up journey through eternity. I'll keep the memory of you and me inside me. Fulfill your destiny. Is there a redemption? My star will liberate. My fate is on the way. The king of hearts, the troopers away. We don't say goodbye. We don't say goodbye. I'll make them all remember me. 'Cause I have found a dream that must come true. Every ounce of me must see it through. But you are my only. I'm sorry I don't have a wrong life to blame. And the wrong heart, I'll find my way. I will make them give to me. Eternity, there is no reason that I find it. Oh, keep the memory of you and me inside. We don't say goodbye. All I can forget, what else we do? We don't say goodbye. So this is who I am, and this is all. And I must just leave for all I can be. Spoken is the power, and I will stand for my dream. If I can, simple like my faith, I am. You are my only, and I must follow on the road that lies ahead. I won't let my heart control my head. You are my only. We don't say goodbye. We don't say goodbye. And I learned what I've got to do. Immortality. I make my journey through eternity. To keep the memory of you and me inside. Fulfill your destiny.
to Joy, to Robert, and to all of Joshua's immediate family, we here today extend our deepest sympathy. We share your loss, we share your grief. Joshua's passing for a time demands that each of us put aside our cares to unite ourselves with others here. We each share in the common bond of love and respect, the unique and special character he was. So we're gathered here today by Joshua's passing, but it is not his passing that brings us here, but really his life, the life that belonged to Joshua and the life that you have shared with him. With all of the mixed emotions that you'll be experiencing now and in the many, many months, the years to come, you will need each other and you'll need your friends to help sustain you. So I do urge and invite you to join the family for a cuppa, a chat, but most importantly, those sharing of memories following this ceremony at the Narromine United Services Memorial Club. No person can sum up the life of another. Life is far too precious to be passed over with mere words. Rather, it must remain as it is remembered by you, who loved and who shared in that life. Your own memories of Joshua are alive, and living memories are the greatest gift that one person can give to another. Let's think about Joshua with smiles on our faces and our hearts filled with gratitude. Please join me for the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Shortly, we will tenderly and reverently commit the body of our son, of our brother, of our uncle, our cousin, our dear friend, our neighbour, Joshua, to the elements, so grateful for the life that has been lived and for all that life has meant for us. As you know, a life that touches others goes on forever. Joshua, you have touched the lives of everyone you knew. You have inspired and you have delighted us. You have laughed with us and you have loved with us. We honour your journey through life and we send all of our love with you. If you're comfortable to stand, please stand now for the final words. We are glad that Joshua lived. We are glad that we saw his face, his smile, and felt the warmth of his hug. We cherish the memory of his words, his deeds, his courage, and his character. We cherish the memory of his place in our family history. We take joy that he brought so much to our lives. We will remember him always. We now bid him a loving farewell. Please be seated. I'm really just going to sum up the theme of today's ceremony, and it's really that Joshua's life has been like a tapestry into which you are all woven to some extent. The threads of those precious memories stored safely in your heart to be accessed whenever you need them. Joshua is never gone from your lives. He lives on in that great heritage of remembered family joy, in the echoes of words you've heard him saying time and time again, and in the way you connect with your own friends. He is not apart from you, but he is a part of you and always will be. So let us leave this place in quietness of spirit, conscious of the things that truly mattered in Joshua's life, of his very deep love for his family, for his friends, and in making a difference in the lives of others. Thank you for honouring his memory. Thank you for being here today.
Bye. I don't want to leave. How do you leave?